Hi, welcome to Senior Moments Successful Aging. I'm your host, Mary Beals-Luedtke. I'm the Area Agency and Aging Director at NACOG, and you can reach me or my staff anytime toll-free at 877-521-3500. Senior Moments Successful Aging is co-sponsored with the Division of Lifelong Learning at Yavapai College, and our producer is Danny Tomerlin. And I just want to thank Danny for her work behind the scenes, and also Curtis Kegley, my administrative assistant. They're the ones that really put these shows together. I just show up and talk at you. So welcome again for joining us, and I want to welcome our guests today. We have Bruce Reed. Hi, Bruce.
Hello.
And Mary Mordino. Hi, Mary. Bruce Reed happens to be one of my staff. He is a part-time ombudsman and works out of the Prescott Valley office. And Mary Mordino is a volunteer ombudsman. And first of all, thank you.
You're welcome.
For everything that you do. And today we're going to talk about what is an ombudsman, what does that mean? But before we start that, I want to talk a little bit about your backgrounds, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what your background is, but where did you come from? What was your career before ombudsman?
Well, I'm a California transplant like so many people, and I retired first time from the Oxnard Police Department, where I spent 30 years as a police officer. And I was, my last 10 years in the police department, I was in the Crimes Against Persons unit, where I investigated sexual assaults, elder abuse, financial abuse, and any child abuse type of cases. So I have a lot of expertise in that area, and that's kind of my passion.
How long have you been in Prescott?
I've been in Prescott for about 9 years.
And you've been with the Area Agency and Aging a majority of those?
Yeah, about 8.5 years. Yeah.
So lucky us. Yeah. And Mary, how long have you been in Prescott, and what's your background?
I've been in Prescott full-time for 5 years.
Welcome.
Thank you. And prior to that, I was in Scottsdale from 1969, and I retired in January of 2014, and decided that I still wanted to be useful and do something. And my background in Scottsdale, I worked at a hospital and in healthcare for 31 years, in purchasing and then information services.
What a great combination of skills, though, as a team, with that healthcare background and with that law enforcement background. So what is an ombudsman, Bruce?
Well, an ombudsman is a person that we work in assisted living facilities and nursing homes. And I have approximately 30 facilities that we visit. That's why we need so many volunteers. And we go in to those facilities, and our job is to advocate for the residents. That's our primary responsibility. We also make sure that their rights aren't violated, and we help them with any family problems. I mean, there's just a myriad of complaints or issues that we may investigate. So we try to act as the intermediary. Intermediary.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and between the facility, the families, and the residents, and our focus is always on the resident. And everything we do in a facility is we try to resolve problems, and everything a big thing for us is the confidentiality. If the resident wants to pursue something, well, we help them resolve that. A lot of times, older people in facilities feel intimidated to bring problems to the forefront. So we go in those facilities and assist them and be their mouthpiece to resolve problems.
And I would imagine, folks that are living in assisted living and in a nursing home are our most vulnerable.
Yes.
And to have a voice is really critical. Yeah. Well, why did you decide to become an ombudsman?
I attended a conference about 5 years before I retired. And one of the questions that was asked us that we were supposed to think about and put down on paper is a goal for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I knew I probably wouldn't be working in 5 years, and so I really thought about it. And I decided that day that I had been blessed, my life had been good, I hadn't had any really, really major difficult times in my life, that I needed to do something in the future to help others in any way I could. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then ironically, the week after I retired and I was in Prescott full-time, I had read in the paper where they were having a volunteer not convention.
We had a volunteer fair, didn't we?
A volunteer fair.
Yeah,
that was the word I was trying
that.
to get.
I remember that.
And so I went there and visited several of the areas, but I decided I wanted to have some free time. In my employment, I had been on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a really long time. So I didn't want to do something that I was really tied to having to be there every Monday at a certain time or whatever. So that's one of the reasons I went towards the Ombudsman program. And I had a friend that was an Ombudsman, and I learned a lot from her, which she did. And I know that there are a lot of people in those homes that have no family or anybody to visit them. And it just struck me that that's what I should do with my time.
And you're right. There's a lot of folks that are in there and sometimes referred to as a forgotten population. And I think that's one of the reasons also why the Ombudsman program is so critical in helping them and being there for them. And you mentioned the intimidation piece. I would imagine when you're living somewhere where somebody does everything for you and feeds you and clothes you and bathes you and gives you your medicine, it's pretty hard to speak up and say something against them.
Right. Yeah. That's very true. We see that a lot, and we do everything that we can is to, make the person feel comfortable in their surroundings, and also to let them know that this is their home, and explain things to them so they understand what the problem is, and if they ever need any help, we're there for them. And I think a lot of times it's really, really hard because a lot of people aren't know what an ombudsman is or what an ombudsman does. So we're trying to up the awareness in the facilities, and it's really good to have volunteers. And if anybody is interested in volunteering, please contact us, because we could use a lot more volunteers. And it's that awareness that somebody's there to protect them, protect their rights, make sure they're getting taken care of, handle problems for them, because a lot of people, they may not have phones, or they don't have access to them, or we help them with it seems like sometimes a lot of simple things, but to them it's a very important thing.
Well, give me an example of a simple thing.
Just like making a phone call. They feel intimidated, or like talking to a staff member about a problem, or an insurance issue. People come in and they sign up for insurance. They really don't know what they're doing, and there's a lot of other things that are available. And we have other programs within our agency that we can refer them to, like Medicare counseling, so they understand that, because there's a lot of issues that come up where people qualify for supplemental insurance, and they don't even have to pay anything.
And they don't know about it.
And they don't know about it. They don't understand it. So that's part of our thing, is to educate people in assisted living and nursing homes, to let them know what's available out there. So all those opportunities are available through the Ombudsman program.
So what is your favorite part about visiting?
I think my favorite part is to make somebody smile or laugh. That doesn't do that very often.
Yeah.
Especially the people that have no family to visit them. That's what I love about doing this as a volunteer, is visiting them and getting them to know me and trust me, so that when they do have an issue, they're not afraid to ask me to help them. And if I go into someone's room and say, "How are you today?" and they put their head down and they're just not happy about anything, I sit down and I stay until I'm able to at least make them smile, but my goal is to make them laugh. Once I get them talking, I'm surprised often when they start telling me about their background, their life, and they'll almost always light up.
Yeah,
So-
and fascinating stories, are they not?
Oh, absolutely. Some of them have had amazing lives,
You know,
and they shouldn't forget that.
No, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly.
And it's really good for them to connect with that part of their lives, and good for you, because it is a learning experience. I remember it well. I was an ombudsman for 13 years, so I know well the role. What are some other things? What is the most difficult part for you?
The most difficult part is when someone is in obvious pain and I can't do much to help them. Or the other thing that I find difficult is when I go into a home and find out, like I did a couple of weeks ago, that 2 of the residents had passed away.
Yeah.
That's hard. And you know, that's the part of being a volunteer that you accept because you know the situation, but it's hard.
Yeah, of course
You know,
it's hard.
It's hard.
You know, I always used to try to think of, well, I'm blessed that I was able to be part of that part of their lives.
And I try to look at it that way to
Yeah.
help me move on and come back.
Exactly. So, Bruce, let's talk a little bit about maybe a difficult case. You know, to give you an example of the breadth, I mean, I think you can have a case with somebody's coffee's cold every day, and that is an issue. To maybe something that's more difficult that you're able to talk about that does come up.
Yeah, my background is more the investigative area, and I'm always looking for red flags of elderly people being taken advantage of because they are vulnerable. And there's a lot of issues that come up with financial issues where people are they're being taken advantage of. You know, the money issue, and there's just all kinds of different situations that you come across that people are kind of letting their way in to these people and taking advantage of them. Because when you think of it, I mean, it's pretty easy in assisted living places, and anybody can come through that door and knock on their door and sell them a bill of goods. So that's what I'm always looking for. And when I talk to the staff and people in these facilities, I always let them know if they see a red flag, and because these issues take a long time to resolve, is to give us a call, because we can act as the person that comes in there and takes the time to find out and about issues that concern money. And they get quite complex and involved, you know, and we got to get the ball rolling and building that trust, you know, when you're talking about somebody's finances, you know, and these people are so sweet. I mean, they think everything is fine, you know, and they don't really realize what's going on. But you look for one red flag, and then after you have a conversation with people, another red flag comes up, and then another red flag, and then you really start to worry. So you want to get into their financial status and find out when the last time that they've viewed their financial statement from the bank, and you get a variation of answers in there. So sometimes it's really hard. You know, you have to build a trust with that person, so you can look at their bank statement, and sometimes that's hard, you know, because people are very protective of that. And but once you get into their bank statement or something like that, well, then you can see where the money's going. And so then, you know, from that point, well, we'll get other agencies involved to assist us in that situation if there is some type of abuse. And you know, maybe a lot of times there isn't abuse either. You know, it's everything is on the up and up, because on the other hand, you might get somebody that thinks they're being taken advantage of, and they're really not. You know, everything's right in order. So, you know, as an ombudsman, we look at those situations and make an evaluation to see, yeah, everything seems to be okay in this issue, or no, we got to refer it to Adult Protective Services or the police department, whichever may be, if it looks serious enough.
So, Mary, you know, because this all sounds really complicated, and I can imagine our viewers going, whoa, that sounds like really complicated to be an ombudsman. I don't know if that's for me. So let's talk a little bit about the training that you received before you became an ombudsman.
Well, my training, I believe, took about 3 months, but I think that varies. There's a pretty good-sized notebook that you study, and I will have to say I learned a lot.
Excellent.
By just reading the book. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know that maybe I should have known before. And then we're tested, but we meet with someone for several times, and I learned a lot. And actually, a refresher now and then is probably a good idea also.
So I would imagine some of the training involves elder abuse and red flags.
Absolutely.
You know?
In the training, you'll go through several scenarios of things that can happen and do happen, and how they're resolved. And the test that you take at the end, which isn't that difficult, if you've studied the book, will give you, it'll give you scenarios, and then you answer what should happen, and it was very educational.
You know, and I would imagine a lot of that is one of the joys I think of volunteering is also learning things that you can use in your own life.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, so it's good to hear that you learned a lot, and I know that you get to shadow
Yes.
with another ombudsman. In other words, they go out with you. They don't just throw you out to the wolves.
Oh, absolutely. I should have mentioned that. And yes, I think I went out at least 3 or 4 times with Bruce, who was a good teacher.
Yes, you know, good example because he's so thorough.
Yes.
And, you know, so on a typical day when you go to visit, you know, what are some examples of what you do? You mentioned that you sat with somebody and helped them smile. And, you know, maybe, you know, the day in the life of Mary as an ombudsman.
Well, I also attend the resident council meetings that they have, the homes that I go to. They have resident council meetings monthly. And if I'm running a little bit late, now they're concerned, oh, is she going to be here? So I believe that that's a good thing for us to do, to attend their meetings. So I do that each month, and then I just walk around, and if I see someone that looks kind of despondent or down that day, those are the people I stop and visit. And if I know someone's going through a difficult time, then I'll make a point to make sure I see that person.
And go ahead.
One thing I wanted to bring up about Mary, she's very creative. And
yes.
Yes, during Christmas time, she organized several of the residents in their wheelchairs. They went in and they dressed all up in costumes. I mean, they looked great, and they decorated their wheelchairs, and it was really a neat thing. And as an ombudsman volunteer, you know, people can come in and they can get as creative as they want to with that. And, you know, you can go in and you can start card games and stuff, because a lot of times you go into facilities and people just aren't engaged. They're not doing nothing. And that's part of our program, is to get people engaged, get them out there, meet people, you know, don't sit in your apartment, you know, get out there and get card games going, decorate wheelchairs and things like that. So she really does a great job, and we're very appreciative of having her in our program.
I remember now. I saw your picture.
Yeah.
We dressed up like elves.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I had a couple of friends that that helped, and one of the decorations that to this day there's still a lot of them have on their wheelchair are angels. They're bright, glittery type angels, and they loved the angels, and so we'll talk about the angels with them, and they leave them on through the year.
Well, they feel like maybe they're being watched over.
I think so.
You know, it's kind of a symbol of that.
And I will have to say that I believe I get as much or more out of that activity than they do. I mean, I think they enjoy it, they laugh, and we'll sing some Christmas carols with them. But that made my Christmas this year.
Nice. Because you gave. You know, and they say...
But they gave to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you get more always more than you give. You get back. And they say that, you know, volunteering is really, really good for your health. There's data on that now, how much that will benefit you by being engaged and having a purpose. And, you know, good for you. I wish everyone would think about, okay, what am I going to do when I retire? Because one of the worst things you can do is retire and do nothing and not have a purpose. And that's when, you know, I mean, I could see sleeping for 3 months maybe. But after that, I'm going to have something to do. So how many homes do you visit?
2 nursing homes.
2 nursing homes.
And then I go to 2 assisted living.
So average time that you spend?
I try to visit the nursing homes at least each of them once a week. The assisted living not quite as often because a lot of the people are in their apartments and you know, I'll just walk through the halls and visit with anybody that I see. But in the homes there's a lot more need, I believe.
Yeah. Well, and there are more critical care at a skilled nursing facility.
Yes.
Assisted living home has a lot more independence.
Right.
Folks that are there, and I know by law they all have to have a poster up, right? To get a hold of you.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so that they know where the ombudsman is. And do you do staff training as well, so that they're aware of you?
Yes, you know, and we're trying to, you know, upgrade that and get more staff training in. But you know, we like to let the staff know about the ombudsman program and what we do, because there's a lot of problems, or people in that work there really don't know what ombudsmen do, and we like to educate them about that, let them know we're there to help, because you know they get in situations where it takes a lot of their time up, you know, and we like to let them know, hey, give us a call, you know, we'll intervene in that and free you up, because you know there's always staffing issues in all the facilities, and they need time, because you know they may need Hoyer lifts to help people. It takes quite a bit of their time just doing their job. So
yeah, I know they work really hard.
Yeah, they really do, and so you know we're there to let them know that hey, we're here to help.
So what's the difference between Adult Protective Services and the Ombudsman? Why would I, as a consumer, call the Ombudsman?
Anytime that you're unsure about anything, somebody's having a problem or an issue, you know, there again, we're kind of the intermediary person that comes in and evaluates a situation to see whether it needs to go to another level or not. You know, with our training and our backgrounds, you know, we look for those types of things. So we may refer something. Maybe to one of our other programs, maybe like a Medicare counselor or Adult Protective Service if somebody's getting really taken advantage of, and then from there it would go to a police department or something.
So how long have you been a volunteer?
It'll be 2 years in April.
2 years. So I would imagine over those 2 years that you've developed some relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things that I'm always happy about is when a staff member will contact me and tell me about a potential issue. So that makes me feel like we have a good relationship, that they're not afraid of us. They know we can help them and the resident.
You know, it imagines, you know, a lot of the complaints you get come from the outside world. I say the outside world, outside of the skilled nursing facility.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we get we get calls from the state ombudsman. A lot of people report to them. They'll call us and give us referrals. Adult Protective Services, when they get called on a situation that it doesn't go to the level where they need to do it, they'll refer it to us so we can follow up on that. And then a lot of family members will call us. And you know, sometimes a staff member will call us if there's something going on that they don't like, or something that they think's wrongdoing. So we'll investigate that. So you know, we get calls from all sources.
And it's, you know, I'm glad you pointed out that, you know, the home feels good about calling you, because we're not like the Gestapo coming in there. We're there to help them give a better quality of life.
Exactly.
And it's good that they recognize that.
One thing I always tell the staff people, so I think that is kind of an issue or a problem, that I always go in and let them know there's always 2 sides to every story, you know. And we hear a lot of complaints, a lot of issues, and we look into those and see whether it is, but we always go to the staff and you know, get their side of the story too. So you know, that enables us to work the situation out, because we can explain to the resident or the family member, whoever it may be, what the issues are. And being the person in the middle, it seems to work a lot better because they just don't think it's maybe the facility that's trying to run hard shot over somebody.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and hopefully, whoever's watching the show, is to get the word out to family members who have a loved one in a home that you've got someone to help you. Because sometimes family members get overwhelmed. Sometimes they're going through a guilt thing about putting their loved one in the nursing home, and then things aren't going right, and they don't know where to go or who to turn to, and really they need to call the Ombudsman program.
And a lot of times too, they live out of town, or maybe in a different state. And I always, when I run across a situation like that, I said, hey, let me know if there's an issue, you need somebody to run interference for you or to check something out because you're unsure about that. We'll go in and investigate that, and then we get back to that person too, because that alleviates a lot of stress, on the family, and so they get both sides of the picture too on that, because they may just be hearing maybe the resident side, and the resident may be mixed up or confused about an issue. So, we first of all will want to make sure that the resident understands and solve that situation, before we call the family member. So,
and sometimes the family member's mixed up and confused.
Exactly. Oh yes. Yeah, that
I know that happens too. And
yes.
It's like sometimes you need to help mediate with them and the facility.
Yep.
The one thing that I remind myself regularly is that if there is an issue that they've talked to us about, before we go and talk to someone else, whether it's the staff or the family member or whatever, we ask for their permission. And that's very important, that we don't violate their rights ourselves.
The confidentiality piece is really important.
Yes.
So, I think anyone who's interested in the Ombudsman program, you can call that toll-free number, 877-521-3500, and say, I'm interested in a volunteering opportunity, and Central Intake will help guide you, back to PJ, the coordinator, or with Bruce right here in Prescott Valley, and we also have group trainings and things like that you can meet Mary at. So I want to thank you again so much for being a volunteer and giving your time, because this is a very, very important program, and it brings a lot of joy to a lot of people. And you make a difference, Mary.
Thank you.
You make a difference. And you do too, Bruce.
Thank you.
I thank you for doing this. And thank you for watching us today and talking about the Ombudsman program, what it means, who we are, and how we can help your loved ones in a nursing home, skilled nursing facility. So thank you for joining us. This is Senior Moment Successful Aging. Bruce Reed, Mary Mordino. Until next time.